I'm Todd Cotgreave with WSHC News. The oldest town in West Virginia, Shepherdstown, is rich in colonial and Civil War history and supports a community that keeps its older traditions alive. Shepherdstown, also home to Shepherd University, has a diverse array of people, including musicians, professors, working professionals, and weirdos. Today we're speaking with someone that bridges the gap between the historical culture and the strange.
Daniel Tokar, blacksmith.
Dan has a small blacksmith shop set in a quiet corner of town, but there's always a steady flow of customers and people curious to see just what Dan's up to.
Hello. They've finally discovered where the lunatic fringe is.
Oh,
This is my lunatic meter.
excellent. I mean, in Shepherdstown, I think it would explode.
Well, we were discussing the triangle of polarization. I'm teaching them how to get ready to fight the waves of cyborgs, which are going to, any day now, show up on our shores.
Dan is a fun person to talk to, but also a very accomplished craftsman. So when I recently broke my father-in-law's axe, instead of going out to buy a new one, I took it to what few people can in the modern era. I took it to our town's blacksmith.
Yep, it's definitely broken. You've got a chunk out of there about as big as your thumb. That's fun. Okay, well, the first thing we've got to do is get it.
The shop is dark and cool. Coal dust coats everything. And Dan has tools in every possible spot he can. All are old and strange looking. Some seem like they were pulled from a busy factory that hasn't been in operation since the times of Prohibition.
This blower is still operating after 75 or 100 years because it was designed to be maintained. I have a trip hammer that is going to celebrate its 100th birthday next year. It was built in 1911, and it's operating because the bearings have probably been redone, I don't know, 10 or 15 times in its working life. All right, we upset this a little more.
Throughout the process of having the axe fixed, Dan would get it red hot, then pull it out of the fire onto an anvil and strike it repeatedly with a large hammer. Then he would file it until the axe had been drawn out from its original shape to replace the portion I'd broken off. Now he was ready to submerge the piece in a bucket of cool water.
Right, we've got the last inch and a half or so of the edge of this axe is nice and red. For some strange reason, I always think about boiling lobsters when I hear that sound.
So is there any tool you don't own, Dan?
Yes, there's actually a couple that I lust after that well, as they say, if you hit the lottery, what would you buy? I think of things like induction furnaces, vacuum melt furnaces, isothermic rolling mills, little toys like that.
Isothermic... What?
Isothermic rolling mills. That would be a rolling mill for rolling out hot metal.
As well as fixing broken axes, Dan has created some of the most beautiful ironworks I have ever seen, and his work is in high demand all over the world. I asked him what his goal is with the work that he's done.
I hope that it's a case of some of the things I make will be in museum display cases 500 years from now, because when you look at the material culture, when you go to a museum and you see what is in the classical section, say ancient Greek stuff, you see things like that red and blackware pottery. Well, 2,500 years ago, that red and blackware pottery was just the local potter's high-end product. It was like somebody's wedding gift, or something for a funeral, or it was a prize for somebody winning a wrestling match or something. It's sort of like the equivalent of bowling trophies. And 2,500 years later, it's what we admire about their culture is they made beautiful bowling trophies. And when you think about what we're building in the world today, tell me, honestly, look around. Tell me, what are people going to admire about us 500 years from now? That we made cool cars? You think we're going to have like
Awesome websites.
awesome websites? I'm sure that will be in a museum somewhere 500 years from now.
Museum of just some screenshots.
Yes, dancing babies.
So I got my axe fixed. Dan even tried it out on a dead tree behind his shop. and I was happy. Happy to have such a cool thing in my own town. Happy that even though the world is run through the internet, there are still places where a blacksmith isn't just in an old western movie or part of a tourist attraction. I'm also happy that Dan is a part of Shepherdstown, where I live, where the strange and the weird walk in broad daylight.
Like, you can't take a kidney from one gazelle and give it to another gazelle. It's not just a case of rejection. There's enough genetic diversity.
I'm Todd Cotgreave for WSHC News.